Hello, my name is Ariel, like the mermaid, and in this video I'm going to talk about bisexual and pansexual erasure. And so basically what this is it's bisexual is when people don't acknowledge bisexuality and pansexuality as a real thing, and when people disregard people as pansexual or bisexual and label them as usually gay or straight. Now, there's been many instances of this. For example, there's a lot of celebrities that are out as bisexual and frequently are labeled as either straight or gay. For example, Lady Gaga is openly bisexual, frequently is labeled as straight, and is labeled as an ally when in reality she identifies as bisexual. And a lot of times, there's many other cases too. The comedian Andy Dick identifies as bisexual, is frequently labeled gay or labeled whatever. You know, I mean, a lot of people suffer from this thing where they come out as bisexual and they're labeled one or the other. And a big part of that is when someone is in a relationship with one person, people will assume, oh, well then they're only attracted to people of that gender. That's one reason why bisexual and pansexual erasure exists. Another reason why a lot of times bisexual and pansexual erasure happens is that people assume, there's a misconception that most people who come out who are bisexual or pansexual are really either gay or straight, and just haven't figured it out yet or are questioning or whatever. Now obviously this sometimes does happen. Sometimes someone will come out as bisexual and later come out as gay, or later go like, oh, you know what, and actually no, I'm actually straight. It happens sometimes, and for a variety of reasons. I think some people unfairly, and particularly some bisexual and pansexual people, will blame gay people who first come out as bisexual and then come out as gay. But I think you have to understand different people have different experiences coming out, and I think most of the time when people initially come out as bisexual or pansexual, usually bisexual, most of the time when people initially come out as one of those things, it's not because they're deliberately going like, oh, well, more people will accept me if I come out as bisexual rather than gay. Maybe sometimes that happens. I don't know. But I think what it is here's the thing. From when you're a very young person, you are immediately taught, oh, you're gonna be straight. You're gonna be, if you're assigned female at birth, then people are going to go like, oh, well, you're gonna be attracted to men. If vice versa, if you're assigned male at birth, then people are like, oh, well, you're going to be attracted to females. And that's how we're taught that in many ways. Like, we're taught through the media. Most of the depictions on the media are of straight people. There's still not as much gay people exposed in the media. People will speak, and will be like, oh, well, when you have a wife, or when you have, like they'll assume based on your gender who you're going to be attracted to and who you're going to marry, and etc. People make these assumptions and they speak with these assumptions. So from a young age, you're going to think, naturally, you're going to assume, oh, well, of course I'm going to be attracted to people of the opposite sex. Now, in reality, this obviously doesn't always happen, and sometimes when you're going through puberty, you think, you just like, are like, wait a second, oh, well, no, I'm actually attracted to people of the same sex, and so then you have the obvious conclusion, oh, well, in that case, I'm bisexual. But then sometimes you later recognize, oh, wait a second, I'm attracted to, I'm not attracted to people of the opposite sex, and then you realize, oh, well, no, I'm just gay. Or sometimes people think that they are, who are actually straight, think that they're bisexual or pansexual, and that's a big misconception. A lot of people will assume that, particularly it's when women come out as bisexual, people will assume, oh, you're just doing it for attention. And yes, there are some people that come out as bisexual and later go like, wait a second, no, I'm straight. But I would say most of the time, they're not just deliberately doing it to get attention. I think most of the time, when someone comes out as bisexual, they think that they're actually bisexual, and a lot of times it's because sexuality isn't always so clear for some people, and I think sometimes you might think that something is sexual attraction, or maybe you're somewhat sexually attracted to someone, but then you realize, but I don't have the same kind of attraction to that person that I have for people of the opposite sex, because people of the opposite sex, it's different, and that's what I am romantically about. So and also the fact that something that people don't understand about sexuality is that it's not so black and white. It's not like, ooh, you're gay, ooh, you're straight, ooh, you're bisexual. No, there's it's a whole range, and it's a whole spectrum, and there's all sorts of things in between. People, there's some people that are more sexually attracted to men, but are more romantically attracted to women. There's a whole variety of people who with different sorts of sexual preferences and different sorts of romantic preferences, and etc. And just to just have these limited labels of gay, bisexual, and pansexual, and straight, and whatever, it's not a realistic attitude to have about sexuality. That's the fact. So a lot of times people get confused and think that they might be something, but they actually aren't, and that's perfectly fine. And I think we shouldn't have an attitude of being upset with people just because they come out as something and then they realize there's something else. Getting back to the original topic of my video, because now I just went on a rambly rant. Yes, bisexuality and pansexuality are a thing. There are people who are attracted to people of all genders, and people of, both binary genders, etc. There are people, it exists, and there are people, and just because someone's in a relationship with one person who is of one gender, that doesn't mean that they aren't still attracted to people of the other gender, or of other genders. I think a lot of times it's easy to have an attitude of, oh, that person's, they came out as bisexual, obviously they're gonna come out as gay, or, oh, they came out as bisexual, they're just doing it for attention, or whatever. But stop yourself when you're thinking like that. Because it's really, even if someone, maybe someone, there are probably some people that have come out as bisexual because they want attention, but, that still doesn't mean, it's still harmful to, delegitimize someone's sexuality, because that sends out a message that sexuality isn't legitimate, and that other people, aren't legitimate with their, and most of the time, I honestly don't think that most people will just deliberately come out as something for attention, completely knowledgeable of the fact that they aren't that. I don't think that happens very often. I think it is very common that someone will come out as bisexual or pansexual and then later be like, oh wait, no, I'm not. Or, oh wait, I'm actually this. That happens. I won't deny that, but I don't think it's deliberately because they're looking for attention. I think it's because sexuality is a more complicated thing than we make it out to be. Another thing that's interesting is the tendency tends to be, if you're male and you come out as bisexual or pansexual, people assume, oh wait, you're gay. Whereas it's vice versa with women, when they come out as bisexual or pansexual, they're like, oh, well, no, you're really straight. Which is an interesting thing. That means that theoretically our culture basically is suggesting that most people should really be just attracted to men, which is a weird message for our culture to be sending. And it's also just kind of a delegitimate, I think it also has to do with the fact that a lot of people delegitimize female sexuality, and so it's just an interesting thing to think about, why you might have an inclination when a female comes out as bisexual or pansexual, to be like, oh, well, they're just straight, or whereas you might have the opposite inclination when a male comes out. So, I think that's a good thing to reflect about why you might have that inclination. And, I don't know, just in general. But the main thing is, if someone comes out as something, don't question them and don't delegitimize them. Have faith, again, I mentioned this in another video, have faith that if they aren't the sexuality they identify with now, they'll figure it out. You know, it's not the end of the world. But you know, if you do have a sense that they came out as something and they might be something else, and you really have a gut feeling about it, I mean, don't try to deal with it by telling them that you don't think that they're the sexuality they identify as. Just make sure that they understand that whatever they identify with, and if they change, they do identify as something else, that you're going to support them no matter what. Just make sure that they understand that you're a supportive person. You'll be there for them no matter what. And I think that's good, and that will, because then if they do change their mind and they realize, oh wait, no, I'm actually not this, then they'll know that they have support no matter what. I think that's the main thing.